Well, again, welcome everyone to this Team Church Meetup on elevating your online experience. So glad you all are here today, whether you're joining us live, as we have many doing right now, or you are watching this after the fact. So glad you're here today. I am joined by some of my smartest friends, at least the friends who are gullible enough to accept this invitation today. So let me do some introductions here quick. First, from our Champion Center team, I wanted to introduce to you all Rachel Buckner. Say hello to everybody, Rachel.
Hey, everybody.
Snaps for Rachel. Rachel is, well, what do you do at Champion Center? I want you to tell everybody.
Oh, that's a loaded question. In terms of online, I help with the people who are hosting on camera. So help put together the service flow and how we can tailor our communication to our online family. So if we ever cut away from our auditorium feeds, those are the people that I'm coaching and organizing throughout the week.
Rachel is also service production guru. She's absolutely the best out there. She helps us do all of our Team Church events and is awesome. So you need to know Rachel after today. I'm going to throw also to Kevin Daughtry, who is with Yellow Box. Say hello to everybody, Kevin, and tell everybody what Yellow Box does.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? So Yellow Box is a nonprofit organization dedicated to developing creativity in the local church. And so right now that means thinking outside the box of how we do church online, how we do experiences. And unfortunately, some of us were caught off guard, it looks like, with our live streaming packages and our live streaming mindsets. And so right now, what we've been doing is fielding a ton of phone calls and trying to evaluate where people are, what they have available, what they can use, and help them connect the dots so that they can continue to have a life-giving experience for their congregations in a time where they might not be able to get into their buildings again for 8 weeks. So it's been a little bit crazy, but we're super excited and honored to be a part of our Team Church family.
Yeah, and you guys truly are family to us. Yellow Box partners with us on all of our events, all of our branding, everything. So please feel free to utilize them. They have a couple of hosting and equipment packages right now available at cost for churches. So you can contact him offline or through Instagram or smoke signal or whatever means necessary if you want more information on that. And then I've asked Pastors Jason and Erica Parrish to join me today. Y'all can say hello to everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. I'm glad to be here.
So glad you guys are here. You guys pastor the Well Church in Salt Lake City, Utah. You have a great church. You're part of our Team Church contributors team. And I asked you to be a part of this call because actually you had a really big win in your church last year when it came to your what you called, I think, Sabbath Sunday. It was the Sunday after Christmas. You did a great elevated experience, of course, pre-recorded and all that, but you really took it to the next level. And then I watched your stream this last week and thought you guys did a great job, as we all are kind of, one cup at a time getting water out of the canoe here, of figuring out online quick. So I just asked them to be a part of the call as lead pastors to answer questions from that seat and that perspective. So I'm going to open up, I think, for just a second while we're sorting through some questions here. Thank you for sending in questions. Use the Q&A feature below. We're going to be using those in the questions you already sent in to start. Kevin, why don't you just take about 1 minute? And why don't you just tell us, kind of set the framework for us today, where we're all needing to take the experience to the next level, and just tell us why this matters today in terms of the local church. I mean, we believe that this is potentially the local church's greatest day. We believe this is harvest time. This is not emergency time. This is harvest time for us.
Yeah, and I think that God's not surprised, right? So if there's any kind of shock to the system, it's maybe because we weren't listening beforehand or really thinking. We get comfortable with what we know, and we get comfortable with our experiences. And I'm really excited about what the church is doing. And I've been really blown away by the leadership, especially in the Team Church network, of how pastors have risen to the occasion to not just take a step back. It's easy to say, hey, I'm going to take a step back, but we're pressing in, and not just coming up with solutions to have church, but to move church forward, even in a season when it seems like it's impossible to do so. And so the leadership in this room, and leadership at this table, and within the Team Church network and within ARC are all pushing to do this in a great way. And so I think that this, like you said, this is our time to shine. This is our time to move forward. And so what we're asking churches to do who maybe don't have a starting place, right? They don't know how to get through it. I know churches that had a lot of equipment at their resource, and this weekend, because they didn't know how to use all of it, they just flipped their iMac around or their MacBook around and used the FaceTime camera, and that was their feed. And so I think that the first thing is evaluating what you have at your disposal right now, and looking at your resources around you that you have available. And let's talk about how you can utilize that without having to make a big expense or big investment. So really being creative with what you have available, how to make it work, and how to make a church online experience special.
Okay, so I'm just going to start the first line of conversation here. Rachel's going to help me ask questions too. We're totally figuring this out as we're going, by the way. But I think the first line of questions I'm seeing and stuff that's getting asked is just about the right platforms to be using. So I don't know who wants to take this question, but I'm assuming everyone on this call has a level of online, service or capability, but is wanting to take it to the next level. So assuming we're kind of in that conversation, I guess any of you guys can answer, what are some of the best streaming platforms out there, and why are they good? I'm sure they're each good for their own reasons. So let's maybe tackle that. And let's also tackle what outlets should we even be on? And, of course, there's Facebook, there's YouTube, there's our own church online platforms. So let's maybe tackle those two questions just out of the gate here.
Sure. I mean, I can start the conversation on that. I think that, obviously, if you're not set up with a streaming platform right now, there's a lot of free opportunities that are available. There's easy to access platforms like YouTube or Facebook that you can stream to. I think let's imagine for the moment that we all do, everyone, looking at this has some kind of way to switch between cameras and has a capture device. So whether you're using a platform like Living as One, or you're using Life Church's free platform, so those are two different discrepancies, right? You have Living as One, which is an incredible platform, but it's going to cost you. And it's the platform that like Life Church uses, that Elevation Church uses, I think Champion Center uses. There's a lot of these bigger churches that are using it. I know the Well uses it as well. So it enables you to go to a cloud. So let's talk about that for a minute. If you have a budget, in my opinion, Living as One is a great platform to go with, because one of the biggest issues that churches face is upload bandwidth, right? So your internet is going to be limited at your location more than likely, because you weren't planning on doing broadcast, especially if you're in the boat where you're in right now. You haven't done this before. And so you're not likely going to get Comcast or whoever you're using to come out and update your bandwidth this week. It's probably not going to happen. So if you're using a platform like Living as One, what they do, they'll sign up quickly. Actually, we've been on the phone with their president today of the company to talk through the need for churches, and they're on board to help. Basically, you can sign up for an online streaming package. You can get their encoder, and as long as you have the switching capability to bring your feed into that encoder, it will go to Facebook and YouTube at the same time, which means that your bandwidth you're sending one upload through your bandwidth, and then from their cloud, it disseminates to Facebook and YouTube. Let's say you don't want to go that route. You want to go a free route. Life Church's platform is a free way to stream. It is its own little mini micro cloud. The downside of that is that you're not going to Facebook and you're not going to YouTube, which is where the world is at. And so our recommendation, if you're using a platform to go to YouTube and to Facebook, is to use them natively. Set the YouTube stream to be the one that you promote on your website. That's the YouTube stream. You should promote that on your emails. But on Facebook, when you're sharing about your stream, you share about the Facebook stream. You share it natively, and you equip your church teams. Like, you have first impression people who love talking to people. Transform them into online first impression managers right now. So take your teams that already know how to communicate on behalf of the church. They already know the heart of the church. They already know how to pray for people, and you make them your online commentators. And they go through the feed. They respond to people's needs. They point them to prayer. They point them to resources on your website. They also moderate in case someone's bored and this happened to be a bully on the chat. which is out there. I think those are, obviously this is a much broader conversation, but I think that's a good place to start, is evaluate what you have available right now, and start the journey there.
Rachel, do you want to share with everybody what we do at Champion Center in terms of even assigning staff, throughout the different platforms and whatnot for engagement?
Yeah, we spent a couple hours yesterday literally hashing through this, getting down in the weeds, and really getting on the same page as far as everyone's job is online now. Online isn't another location. We were viewing it as our sixth location, and right now everybody is on the online team. And so
basically Rachel just got a huge staff is what that means.
It was literally the best day ever. But so we showed up to this meeting with our flex pants on. God, we've been saying all morning, God is not surprised by this. I'm in awe of the groundwork that has been laid, even through, Team Church events and our staff getaway. We've been talking about how, you never know. We're going to have a heart for the house, regardless of what, our email signature says, what our job description is. And so I think we've been ready as a staff to tackle this and do whatever it takes and get our hands dirty in whatever department. So what Kevin said is so valuable, of using the strengths that we have in the departments that previously existed. So Connections is on fire right now for online. They're digging into analytics. They're digging into follow-up. They're digging into how we capture people's into capturing their contact information and really making people feel welcome, just like we do when they come into the doors, when we're shaking hands, we're giving high fives, we're expressing life. What does that look like online? That's what Connections is doing. Our Connect groups, our life group teams are looking at how we're taking those life groups online. Zoom is going to be one of those platforms that we use quite a bit. And so we're doing a training on that later today, on how all of our different locations can be utilizing Zoom to take our life groups online, our team trainings online. So we're doing some parallels there as well. Our worship teams are looking at how we can build the skill level of our worship teams. So for example, like natural number system is not a common language throughout our teams at all of our locations yet, and it's something we've been meaning to do. So we're going to be putting some of those training materials together and teaching people via video on what that looks like as well. So everybody's sort of putting on their online hat and how we can either leverage this time of where our plates are left full, and what can we fill them up with in a way that's going to be, nourishing our teams and really bringing everybody together. Our pastor has encouraged us to really lean into community. So whatever that looks like in online, we live in such a great age of technology to where we don't have to be isolated. We can still be together. So it's been exciting.
Absolutely. Let's talk about engagement for a second, and I'll throw this to whoever wants to take it. This is probably our most asked question I'm seeing. So basically, how are we maximizing, or how can we maximize engagement on all the different platforms we happen to be streaming? What does engagement look like? I even saw a question on here, what metrics should we be using? How can we measure engagement? I think I'd like to say one thing to everybody right now, and let's realize that we've never been here before as the local church, where all of a sudden we're forced to be entirely digital. I don't think we know where we're supposed to be. I think that we're expecting a great day, but I don't think we know what that looks like yet. And what I want you to remember, I guess, my contribution, just biblically speaking, is crowds come and go. The crowds came and went during Jesus' day. He fed them one day, and then the next day they were leaving him, and he even asked his disciples, "Are you going to leave me too?" So crowds come and go, but realize your church has a core, and right now you're talking to the heart and the soul of your church. And just realize the crowd will come back, especially when we open our buildings. You will see the harvest of this season when we are in our buildings again. But right now we're talking to the people that make up the soul of this thing. And so we do need to measure numbers. I think I'm just advocating for the fact we don't quite know what those are going to be yet. I think we're all trying to figure that out. But I'll just open up the question of engagement. How can we maximize engagement on these platforms on the weekend? And then are there numbers that we can be looking at that, I mean, maybe Jason and Erica, you could even talk as pastors, just what numbers would matter to you, if you were a pastor
Yeah,
in this season?
I think like one thing, I think obviously Rachel just spoke to the idea of like having people, and even Kevin talked to this about having people connect with people while you're streaming. But this is an opportunity for church to not just be on Sunday. So like we are not just considering our engagement for Sunday. Sunday is going to be what it's going to be. We went Facebook Live, we went YouTube this week, and I'm not going to lie, we probably reached 10,000 people this last Sunday, which is incredible and ridiculous, and we were overwhelmed and blown away. And but the thing we celebrated the most wasn't our reach. It was the one person who sent in a Connect card that said yes to Jesus. One person, So I think so often, like, those are our wins might look really, they might look like the one person right now. And we're all on this trend of for the one. That's our new motto at our church. That is literally everything we say and do is for the one. So we're celebrating one at a time, one connection at a time, one person at a time. And so I think like, you can't fully understand or grasp who all you're reaching. So I would say celebrate the engagement. You can see your engagement. You can see how many people have viewed your videos. We have, over 3,000 here, over 1,500 on YouTube, over 3,000 on Facebook. Those are all great things and help us so much to see that we're reaching people. But again, like Brandon said, they come and go. So I think trying to establish what are your wins in this season is going to be a big deal. Like, is it getting that Connect card in where maybe you say, hey, we're going to send out a gift to everyone who fills out a Connect cards and tells us you were here today if you're here for the first time kind of thing. So we're taking like more steps practically in engagement outside of the service, outside of the stream. That's where we're actually engaging with people.
And I think to add on to that, some of the practical nature of that engagement is more than just Sundays. So like right now we're looking at a midweek service. We've never ever had a live midweek service. So we're actually getting creative now. I'm going to run an online midweek service that's going to come like close in. We'll have an acoustic guitar, a couple singers. I'm going to do a small message, and that'll get zoomed in closer and tighter. So we're going to offer that. We're offering a couple different things that we're going to be doing with devotional type of realities. And as well as just like the pastor's heart in me says this, like have an insane amount of fun while you're doing this. We can all have really serious faces right now. And like, I've been joking around with our team, like all day, I want to do something around the lines of the COVID Chronicles and doing something, just doing something to like bring some joy, bring some party to the place, because while yes, it's a very serious atmosphere that we're in right now, like I think we have the distinct opportunities as the church to go like, how do we infect people with joy through these online platforms if they're not in person, if you're not getting to shake someone's hand, if you're not getting to give them a hug, so on and so forth. So I mean, we're going to be doing all kinds of stuff to create engagement that'll stem from our platforms, but also allow us to hit some tangible realities as well, if that makes sense.
Yep, it was great. Kevin, will you talk? I saw you answered one question. Will you talk about 3-second and 10-second engagement and even longer? It's easy to see a YouTube number changing, going up and down, a Facebook number going up and down. But are there ways we can dig in deeper to see who watched longer, or those kinds of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it can be disheartening if you're looking at the direct viewers sometimes, because if you're doing it for the first time, those numbers may be low. You may be looking at 49 to 99 people on Facebook and the same numbers on YouTube. And so you're like, well, I'm doing all this for just this amount of people. Obviously, as the season grows and kind of people get more used to this, then those numbers will grow natively. But like with Elevate this weekend, for example, we helped produce, they filmed in the studio multiple weeks worth of services. And this week alone, actually, we have like 3 different churches coming in the studio to film that we're just opening our studio up and being like, hey, come in and do this. But in their case, you know, I was watching those numbers in real time, and it was lower. It was 100, 200 people comparatively to, you know, obviously the Well's 10,000. But then you look at the post engagement, you look at the 3 and the 10-second views, and you start to understand the real reach of this. While people didn't necessarily engage in real time, those views turned into viewers later on, post service, post the live feed, once the video's out there. In literally the same day, it went from, you know, a few hundred views to several thousand views, because people were sharing it, people were engaging with it. So I would say don't be discouraged by the immediate number. Look at the larger scale impact of where this could go.
Just to clarify, that was the larger number.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you guys are just awesome.
That would have been amazing if we had 10,000 online with us, but no, like
I
at
didn't
any
know
moment, Facebook was like 70 and YouTube was running 200. So we were definitely more in the like 300 at one time. But overall reach was
Hey, I want to.
One day, who knows? One day. Oh.
One day, guys. I want to make a point here, just from personal preference, as someone who consumes a lot of online services myself. I spend, as many of you know, spend a lot of my time on the road, and so I watch my home church, but I watch other churches, and I've done this for years now. So if I can just, and you guys can counter my thoughts if you want. You can be wrong. But my thoughts are that I love when churches stream it live. I think it's great. I think you can chat. I think you can create the interaction. But I'm often not able to catch stuff at that moment, or I missed it at that moment. I love, as long as you're proud of it on any level, I love when churches post the whole broadcast after the fact. That was actually how I caught the Well, I believe, this last week. I don't think I was watching it live. I think I was watching, you know, what was posted. And I know that that is not engagement. I know that it's not, you know, the chat thing and all that. I'm just saying, in terms of someone, I wouldn't be reached in many cases if it wasn't for the Hillsongs and whatnot out there that actually post their services. There are churches that only post the message. And to be honest, I kind of miss the rest of the service. Now, if your service isn't something you're proud of, we're going to talk about that in a minute, how to maybe up the quality of that. And I do understand that's the reality, you know, in a lot of ways. I'm just advocating for the fact I love watching stuff back. I know it doesn't get the chat, but I enjoy it, and I feel like I consume a lot myself that way. Does that make sense to you guys? Any other thoughts on engagement?
I have a question about measurables that we haven't quite figured out yet, honestly. So all the different platforms that we talked about, Living as One, Church Online, YouTube, Facebook, all of that, they've all got their different ways of reporting, because metrics are something that we're still tracking in this season. Have you guys found what your preferred metrics are yet, or what like the most consistent way to measure attendance might be among any of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit misleading if you're just looking at views, because that's not necessarily attendance, if you will, right?
Right.
Honestly, I think one of the easier ways to engage attendance from like if you're actually looking at, okay, we had a 9, an 11, and a 2 o'clock, you know, live stream. We had this many viewers on there, so I would only engage the metrics that show up in that direct live feed time for attendance, so that you're going to get a better view of, you know, might be lower than overall. Like if we're talking about post-service watches, those are going to far exceed the live service. That's just the reality of where we're at, because people want convenience and they want to do it on their own. But if they're engaging, you can actually look. Some of those tools do have engagement like tools. Obviously, Facebook is really good at it. YouTube has some pretty decent analytics for that. They both get to cheat because they're large organizations. Those streaming platforms are going to far exceed analytics compared to other platforms. But I think you look at only the views in that time and only the engagements in that time frame. And there are ways on some of those tools to actually go back and see viewers during a certain window. Not all of them do that, but some of them do that.
There's a question that I saw that came in before the broadcast on what do you do with dream teamers, or volunteers, now that we don't have regular weekend services, what do we do? And I think I wanted to offer a couple thoughts. Maybe you all can pipe in on that. First of all, I think as much organic community as can be created on the chats, the better. Like even today, I'm noticing on this call right now, you guys are answering each other's questions. Like that's powerful. It's not just a come to Team Church and see how awesome we are, but you all are starting to engage with each other. I'd even love if you'd exchange contact information with each other or keep in touch after. That's the whole point of this thing, is to get the community swirling and moving together rather than just a come and see, kind of a model. So I would definitely be staffing and encouraging, your volunteers or dream teamers to be on the calls. Literally, we have a spreadsheet at Champion Center. We assign staff and people. You're going to be YouTube 9:45 service. You're going to be YouTube 11:30 service. You're going to be YouTube 5 o'clock service. You're going to be Facebook Live 9:45. I mean, we just go down the list like that. Don't be afraid to get that specific. I also think you need some pastors or some, campus pastor type people or exec staff or whatever you would call those people to be on there as that can pray with people, that can connect with people like a pastor would. And then that's still going to leave a lot of volunteers out. But that would lead me to my next thought. And Rachel referenced this earlier, but I want to bring this back up. Pastor Kevin, my pastor, is calling our church right now to lead through what we're calling people groups. And we have selected 6 major people groups we're going to focus on this time. I believe there are people groups like men, women, legacy givers. Rachel, you can help me out. Youth. Children. There's a number of them like that. And the idea being we're going to lead through those groups. So those groups need to hear from us up to 4 and 5 times a week right now. It could be something as organic as text message check-ins, and it could be as official as, a Zoom call for the group. But whatever the case may be, we want to stay engaged. And that's a space where a lot of people on your teams could come alive and just join you. Get a list out, find out who those people are in the database, let them hear from you. I told a team this morning, I was on an early morning call with, like, your goal right now should be to go to bed with your phone battery dead because you used it all day long right now. We're just connecting, we're talking, we're in the trenches. We're not just doing the YouTube chat and that's good. No, we're gonna go proactively into groups of people. And maybe we can unpack that here as we go on this call. But I just think there's a lot of space for volunteers to be used. Just realize it's not going to be greeting at a door or doing something practically. We are entirely digital. So them using their phone, them using their influence, all that's just going to be really powerful right now.
Yeah, maybe let's unpack how we can engage maybe some of those specific people groups. Maybe we should start with kids. I saw a few of those on the Q&A and some of the questions that people sent in beforehand. So what about kids? How can we elevate the experience with kids if parents are engaged in the weekend, the mainstream of our weekend message? What are ways that we can still keep kids engaged?
So one thing that we did this last weekend is we did a pre-service service for the kids. So at 10:30, we posted just a 15-minute, and you guys, I just want to encourage you, don't be overwhelmed and try to produce this thing. We're not in a season of getting to do the overproduction. So for me, it was like I grabbed 3 people and put them on couches and took my iPhone and I recorded sections, and I used this beautiful thing because we do not have a video person right now to cut and edit and all the things. And so I used this app on my phone called Splice, and I just had them, I said, this is the section I want you to film right now. And I just put it into Splice, film this, put it into Splice. And then we added some elements of the music that we have from the curriculum and whatnot. So really simple, and just told parents and families, be online at 10:30. It didn't get loaded exactly on time. It took us a moment to figure it out. And we just had it on Facebook. So we just posted it to one place, kept it simple. We might add it to YouTube this week, but, and so we're going to actually be filming the next 4 weeks. We're just trying to be 4 weeks ahead, although we're all believing we'll be back in before Easter, but 4 weeks ahead of little mini services to include the kids. The second thing we're doing to include kids is we have already printed everything that we need for the next month. We had already done that in preparation for our normal services. So we're literally just going to go old fashioned and mail it to families and say, here's some crayons and some stickers. Your kids are stuck at home. Here's some worksheets. Like, we're trying to really get into families' homes. We're going to be dropping cookies off at all of our team members' houses just to encourage people and love on them. And so, like, this is not the time to really slow down. This is the time to truly pastor and lead people and get back in their worlds a little bit. And so I think, like, that's some of the stuff we're doing for our kiddos and our team. Obviously, I added that in there a little bit too, but just trying to apply some practical things. You
said something really brilliant a minute ago, just about, like, even just shooting it from your iPhone or whatever. Can I just set someone free with this thought? This thought is helping me right now. Is we want to be published over polished right now. Published over polished. In other words, we're going to default to action, not perfection right now. So case in point, we have a graphic designer at Champion Center. A few of our meetups, have gone through the normal cycle of planning and, just normal for now, planning, and graphic designer did a couple Insta stories. But this morning I woke up to 3 texts of people wanting wanting Zoom training. And so literally I'm laying in bed, not even up for the day. I put on my story, I'm doing a training today. Forget this. I'm not doing it 3 times. I'm doing it 1 time, and we're going to record it. And guess what? I have like 30 people coming from different churches to my little janky, like texting, creating an Insta story from my bed this morning, because I didn't care that it wasn't branded. I didn't care that it wasn't, didn't have our logo on it. We're emphasizing being published over polished right now. So if I could just set someone free to default to action right now and just engage with people, maybe that'll help. Jason.
Yeah, I wanted to say this just from my seat in this with our team. We are saying more yeses than we are no's. Somebody has an idea, it's yes, let's run with it. Like, can we do that? Yes, let's run with it. To your point. And if you watch what's going on, like, say, like YouTube, like my kids are like obsessed with YouTube right now, and all these like different things that are going on, people that are filming things and everything. So like my boy right now watches this Hot Wheels YouTube, and it's not professional at all. I think it's like an 8-year-old who started filming things with like his dad's camera, dad's phone. But the amount of views that's on it and like how enthralled my kids are with it right now, it boggles my mind, because I would go, yeah, that's not professional. That's not produced. That's not this. And my kids are in love with it. So maybe even going back to like answer the original question with kids stuff, there's so much that you can do that you get away with kids, especially. Ours was, I think, like, it was a ton of fun for them to do it. Kids engaged. Like, we were getting text messages and Instagram shots of people whose kids had it on their iPad and they were watching it. And it's like, man, we got a little YouTube thing going on right now within our church. And I don't care if it doesn't go viral anywhere else, but if it goes viral within our church for these next few weeks, man, that's the win. That's the engagement that you want. And as it starts to pump out. So, but it's also making everybody else get creative. So I think it actually it's helping raise the water level in it all as well. As I've even watched my teams just kind of like go like, oh, we could do this. We could do this. So just engage somewhere, get involved somewhere, make it fun. Don't freak out over it. And to Brandon's point, I think it's a beautiful point, Brandon. Like, we got to just calm down on the production level right now and focus on reaching people.
I have friends, team members who literally in one room had a kids streaming thing going with worship and then a little teaching from the curriculum, whatever the church was able to put on and package and put out there. And then in the other room, the parents were, having their worship experience with the live stream, and they were from 2 different churches. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is where people are hungry content, and they want their kids to still be involved. And so, maybe the way to go about it, if you don't have the ability to mail out packages to everybody, and didn't have that kind of already available, email the downloadable PDFs from your curriculum that the parents can use and print out at home. And there's ways to get around the boring digital screen only. Like, there's ways to engage people beyond that in a physical way if we're providing content and resources to individuals.
Yeah, I loved what our team did this last weekend. It was at the drop of a hat and what we could put together for the weekend, but we included in our watch parties page. We have a web page that we put together to equip people hosting watch parties this last weekend, and it's for kids. They had links to YouTube videos that had the lesson on them, but then there was also a PDF download of questions and ways for the parents to interact with the kids afterwards. So my son and I had a discussion about wisdom, and he retained so much from a 2-minute video, and he had so much fun, and they made it silly, and it was a way for the parents to connect as well.
Yeah, and if you want information on that just from Champion Center, you can go to cc.church/watchparties, plural, and you can see what Rachel is referring to. And I mean, download the doc. You'll see how simple it is. It's like a logo and text and some links. I mean, we're not, again, published over polished at this point. I think it looks excellent. It's just simple. So now, at the risk of sounding like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, let's talk about making our online experience better. We did have a number of questions coming in about elevating that. So churches that are kind of here and want to go here, I guess let's talk about quality. I want to ask this question. This actually came in from ARC today. They're dealing with this with several churches that they've been working with over the last week. What is the best way for us to approach praise and worship on our streams in the instance that a lot of people are getting blocked through copyright, kind of stuff? I don't know all about this, but I know if you use enough tracks, this happened to us, I think, at Team Church Conference actually last year. We had Chris Brown leading worship, and he got blocked singing his own song, which I thought was so dumb, but he did. And so maybe just talk about what we could do to have an excellent worship experience and elevate from where we're at and get around that blocking thing.
Yeah, usually those algorithms for blocking only really apply if you're using heavy tracks, because that's the element of it that is going to get picked up by the censors. If you're doing the same, you're doing the song. You guys as a church probably already have or should have a CCLI license that covers your actual legal needs to be able to put music out that's not your own. But I think avoiding tracks anyway is probably going to be a good idea just for online streaming. We've done a bunch of recordings and setups with churches recently who didn't use heavy tracks. They went more of an acoustic route. They maybe had a cajon, an acoustic guitar, an electric, and a keyboard, and so that was their vibe. This week we have one of the churches that we helped plant is Gateway Church out here in Houston, and Leland Mooring is their worship leader. And so when he sings Waymaker, it sounds just like Waymaker. So the trick around that is not to use tracks, because it's definitely going to get blocked. It's what happened at Team Church Conference is like they were saying earlier, is we had Chris Brown from Elevation Worship on stage singing his song with his tracks and a live band. It wasn't the live band that picked it up. It wasn't him singing that picked it up. It was the combination of the tracks and his voice that stopped the algorithm. And Facebook is very sensitive about that. YouTube wasn't impacted, but Facebook was. So if you avoid tracks, I think it's probably a safer route. Just put a click track out so your team stays on beat and on tempo, and go a little more organic. I think that people are fine. They don't need, the same thing. I think we're comfortable with, man, we just need a place to worship. We need something to worship to, and it helps if it sounds good. And I think you can avoid a lot of the issues if you don't use the tracks.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you don't typically, if your church, and again, I don't know who's all on here, size of churches, spectrum of technology and everything like that. If you don't typically mix this way, this is a new format for you doing things. Simplicity is better. And that's where your clarity is going to come from. Even this weekend, like our team and Kevin and Brandon have been with our team. We know that we have a really solid team, but this was really our first swing at doing some of these things. And so we brought the level of production down. It was an acoustic guitar, cajon, and a couple singers, and they were in rehearsals for most of the week trying to make sure that everything that we did was good. But the simplicity of it was awesome. And it worked really, really well, because for our team that's in the back, like the tech guys on the board, they can mix a lot better in real time. I think the biggest complication is when you start adding in all the electric stuff, electric guitars, bass, drums, full kit, so on and so forth. So maybe a church that's smaller in size or doesn't have like mass technology right now, I want to encourage you to use Brandon's statement, sets you free. It's amazing what an acoustic guitar and a cajon can do. And while we all know that the Holy Spirit comes by way of the bass and the fog, he'll still come with acoustic guitars and singers. Praise the Lord. So I just want to encourage you with that reality right there.
I love that. I love keeping it simple. And at the same time as you're keeping it simple, let's be unapologetic about having our best vocalist, our best guitarist, our best person on our cajon, because that's the less pressure that you have on your engineer mixing everything down. The higher quality that the raw content can be, the better it's going to come across.
I want to cover two things really fast, and we have just a few minutes left here on this call today. I noticed two churches out there that I felt like did a really good job this last weekend, and they took a very, very different approach. You may even be able to see some of it on Instagram still. I saw Jeremy Foster and Hope City Church. They were in like this vibey, open air kind of room. In other words, it would have been a really live room acoustically. And they just had a bunch of acoustic guitars and some people sitting around singing, just staff or choir, I don't know who they were, and just had some cameras in there. In other words, no lights, no stage. And honestly, it was really engaging from just a living room perspective. It was very warm. It was very inviting. And then I saw churches even like Champion Center, like my church, where we pre-recorded the weekend, which personally, I think if you have a live crowd, or at least a few people in the room, recording it live is not an issue. I mean, people are watching it digitally, no matter if it's actually live or pre-recorded. So if you can capture the live essence, I think pre-recorded can work really well. But just being real, Rachel can maybe speak to this. We had someone go and mix it down afterwards. And
we did.
I mean, even had to pay a little bit for it, but the sound quality mattered. I guess what I would want to say, and Rachel can speak more to the mix it down afterwards, both worked. This is not a one works better than the other. I think both done well were engaging.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you do decide to go the pre-recorded route, I would say knock them out a lot at a time. So tonight, actually, we're going to be pre-recording, I think, 10 songs that we can use. We're going to mix them down. We're leaving, just for a technical standpoint, we're leaving a lot of like a keys pad before and after each one, so we can crossfade it with whatever music bed we're putting in the segment before or after. We're doing like a minor crash out of every song, so we can have good transitions, and we can mix up these songs in the future however we want to, but it gives us a lot of flexibility there. And we're trying to keep them, I would say, pretty standard, not making them very, we're just keeping it simple as we possibly can to capture what we can, so then we can flex in post.
I had someone on here ask that, they said we rented some better equipment for our stream this past Sunday. Feedback was overwhelming. Was that a smart move? I think right now investing in doing the best you can is a great investment. We don't have buildings we're meeting in right now. And so I think the cost of rentals and the cost of, even some mixed down stuff and whatnot, I don't think that's inappropriate right now. And I guess we were proud that we gave it a good shot right out of the gate. And when we're going to continue to refine it until then. So to me, the investments are worthwhile right now, but I think we're also trying to find solutions that are not high budget, you know, solutions as well. Andrew Blaylock asked this question: how do you make the vibey, acoustic, intimate settings still feel professional without feeling slouchy, or make it feel like your audience is a fly on the wall? To me, it's all about the room in which it's being recorded. I'm just going to use the Hope City example again. I just loved them being in a room that was really echoey, really loud. It just sounded really alive. I've also saw stuff in studios and thought it sounded a little muffled. So I just loved being in a big old, you know, live feeling room somewhere. And I don't know, that they made it seem really alive.
Kevin, I love what you guys did with the World Sabbath weekend and just what you did with camera angles to make people feel like we were really there. Talk about that.
Well, I mean, I think so, you know, producing that was an idea, and it was a lot of fun working with Jason and Erica and Andrew and the team there, because if anyone has some crazy ideas, it's Pastor Jason. He's like, hey guys, we're going to record next Sabbath Sunday on the moon, and we're going to be there and we're going to float around. It's going to be amazing. And so we're like, yes, let's do it. But going in, I think it's just how you create the environment. And so in those scenarios, one thing that can help, and one thing that picked up on that recording that you noticed, you felt like you were in the room, is because we added some room mics. We intentionally mic'd the room to capture the ambience, to capture the audience reactions, to capture the clapping and the laughing and the singing. And that really does make a difference. So if you have the capability in your church environment and your mix down to add a few room mics, a condenser mic works great, and put a little compressor on it to make it, you know, feel controlled, that's going to make the big difference and really connect the dots. I think that's the easiest way to bring some life into a muted audio scenario, is adding room mics. And then for camera angles, if you do have the ability to record and edit it and then schedule it, like Brandon's saying, the difference in the digital, people don't know the difference. If you're scheduling it and premiering it in YouTube or Facebook, it almost shows up like a live event and works very much the same way, but you don't have the technical issues that could happen in a live event production. And you also have the ability to create more cinematic opportunities. So if you're doing that, one of the things that we recommend is if you're doing a worship set, say you're doing 2 songs per Sunday and you're going to record a bunch of these at once, record each song twice and use the first take to record close angles of the singers and a wide angle of the whole band. And the second take, get in and zoom in on instrumentation, on backline, on maybe people in the audience that are worshiping, if you have a small audience there. And then if you're using a click track, which is why I recommended the click track earlier, then syncing it up and editing it is super easy, because the song format, sorry, I think I just swallowed a fly. The song format is the same. If you're using that, if you're following that flow, and the click's going to help keep it on sync, and then syncing it up and editing the angles, if you're doing that in post as an editor, it makes it a lot easier to do that.
Excellent. Sorry, I'm just looking through our questions here.
I'm stealing that 2-take idea. It's happening.
Hey, I want to mention to everybody, because we need to be done here in about 5 minutes. We're going to keep conversations like this going. I'm sure there's many questions we didn't get to today. I'm hoping this is helping somebody just think differently about taking your experience to the next level. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to be starting another Zoom call. Just put the link in the chat feature for anyone that wants to join us. We're going to be talking about how to host online meetings. This is not church services, this is meetings. But going back to leading the people groups of your church and communicating to them in this time, we're going to be talking about that. So feel free to join us on that link if any of that interests you. We're going to be talking a little bit more about community engagement throughout the week and all that. Any final comments from any panelists on online platforms? We did have a couple questions coming about how are we getting like connection cards and, decisions for Christ, some of that information. Anyone want to speak to that really fast?
Yeah, I keep accidentally pushing I'll answer that live, and I mean to type in the answer. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to multitask and stay in touch with everybody. But yeah, so Connect cards, all we did honestly is we just directed them to the comments. We put it all in the comments live, and then we also put it underneath our YouTube and our Facebook, where you would write the description. We just put the cards in there. That was one thing. And then someone else just asked another question, and I can't remember what it was, and it disappeared from our answered queue, and it was really easy to answer. I'm so sorry. Brandon. Oh, if you don't have a speaking team, only one main speaker, do you recommend us doing a few messages? Yes, we do. We're going to film 4 sessions for our Thursday night midweek services. We're going to film them all this Thursday. And then Sunday, we're filming 2 services. One will actually be live. The second one will be, we'll produce obviously throughout the week to put out. And then the next Thursday, we're doing 2 more services just because we don't know when we might be quarantined, if we end up getting quarantined. So we're trying to prepare all the way through Easter. So yeah, Pastor Jason right there, he's going to be preparing 4 messages in a week. Good thing it's Easter and we know the message, right? So
right.
Highly recommend that for sure.
Pastor Pace asked a question. What's up, Pastor Pace? Love you, man. Pace Hartfield is a rock star, incredible guy. He asked, what are your thoughts about streaming to multiple platforms, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, Live Church? I think the more you can stream to, depending on the technology you have, the encoder software you have, and your bandwidth, the merrier. Get them all out there. Just make sure that you're staffing those with crew, with volunteers who are engaging. Don't leave them orphaned as a stream. So if you're going to be going multiple streams, make sure that you're putting your team out there to engage in those native environments with the people you're streaming to.
Yep. Hey, I want to also encourage everybody, use your voice this week. Lead the narrative of your church. Don't leave it to CNN, or don't do that, or any of them to lead the narrative of your church. Fill in the gap, fill in the space. There's plenty to say through the language and the lens of faith that our churches desperately need to hear right now. And I'm just going to say it again. Erica said this on a group chat we're on last night, and it just resonated so much with me. Your church is growing right now. It just may not show up until you re-enter your building. Let's try to identify our measurables and our targets, but let's remember the church is growing right now. And there are people you're going to reach during this time that wouldn't have stepped foot in your doors first. And guess what? The growth, we're going to believe in Jesus' name, will show up once we re-enter our buildings. So we're praying for you guys. We love you. We are with you. A couple of quick announcements. teamchurchconference.com/events is where we're posting links to all of our meetups that we're going to do over the next couple of weeks. We're totally just calling these as we get the questions. So plan to join as many of those as you can, RSVP there. Also, as soon as we're able to, we're going to make all these calls available on our Open Network page, our Team Church page on Open Network. So plan to check those out there. If there's any way we can help you, reach out to us through email, through Instagram, smoke signal, whatever the case may be. It would be our honor to walk with you all through the season. We're praying for you. We love you. In fact, let me just pray for you right now before we go. Father, I thank you for every church and every leader represented. Holy Spirit, would you rush into the room right now where every believer right now is watching this, gathered as a group. You did it in the book of Acts, and you're going to do it today. We really believe, Jesus, you're going to use this situation because you use all things for our good. And I think that you're building your church. The gates of hell will not prevail. A virus will not prevail. We take shelter in the shadow of the Most High today. And we trust that none of this will come near our tent, nor will it destroy us. So I just speak a blessing over every church today. May we walk in the very peace and presence and favor of God this week. Bless your church and bless your people. Bless these leaders, Father, as they attempt to build your church well this week. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Love you guys. Hey, click the link if we can help you on our next call. I'm starting in 2 minutes.
Much love.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.